Good evening and welcome back. We are in our tutorial for bringing our character that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks from Maya into Unreal. And I have a bunch of folders that I made in the previous video. If you haven't seen this stuff yet, kind of go back to the previous video and watch that to kind of catch up with us. If you're familiar with this enough, then you're good to go. I'm going to open up my blueprints folder. I'm going to go to my character and in my animations folder here. And I'm really going to put my animations folder. I'm going to move that to content because it's a little OCD. There we go. So animations, blueprints, and stuff. Let's go down to our character, open up our character blueprint. And in here we have just our capsule. So this is where our character is going to go. And we have an arrow that shows us which way he's going to face. Come up to where it says mesh. It's over here on the left. And I'm going to go over to the right, and it's going to say skeletal mesh. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I will choose my character skeleton. And you can see that he is kind of tiny. I'm going to scale him up. So first I want to put him on the floor. Location Z, I'm going to do -90. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to scale him up, so he's the right size. He could be a tiny little guy, or he can be a big guy. It's up to you. And then I will rotate him so he faces the correct way. There he is. Then compile that. And I want to add a camera to my character, so I'm going to go up to the capsule component here. Or you can choose this one. Either one of these will get you to the same place. I'm going to add components. I want a spring arm, so spring arm. This will give you a little boom handle for the camera to attach to. You don't need this, but this is nicer for if your camera hits walls and stuff, it'll adjust to your character. If you don't have a spring arm, your camera will just clip onto the wall, which can be annoying, so it's up to you. And then I'll add the camera. Add components, camera. Just make sure that your camera is, of course, a child of your spring arm. And I will adjust my spring arm to a height that I want, so maybe here. Good enough. I'll hit compile. And let's get our character into the game. So to get him into there, I'm going to go to System Blueprint. And if I already hit play, you can see we don't start as our character. It's because we haven't set up the controllers for that yet. So instead of our System Blueprint, let's go ahead and do blueprint class, and we'll make our game mode base. You can call this whatever game you're playing. If this is your start menu, you can call it start menu game mode. If it's your main menu, maybe it's main menu game mode. If it's a pause menu, or if it's an actual level, whatever you're doing, first person, third person, or so on. I'm just going to call this Bubba game mode. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And inside my Bubba game mode, I'm going to go down to where it says default pawn class, and I will add my Bubba character. Where are you at, Bubba? There you are. And compile that. Close that. So that's good enough. Then I'll go up to File. Go ahead and save all. Edit. Go to our project settings. And we're going to add our game mode to our project. So maps and modes. You can see default game mode is whatever it starts with. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to change it to Bubba game mode. And if I hit the drop down here, you can see Bubba is added to my pawn class. It's right there. And let's go ahead and hit play, see if we're in Bubba. I am in Bubba, but I can't move. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Need to set up the controls. For this, you can do it directly inside of your project settings. So go in here, I'll go ahead and expand that. I'm going to come down to input. That's under engine. So that engine and then input. We have key bindings right here. So this is bindings. This is where you set up your action and axis maps. So under action map, I'm going to hit the plus sign, hit the drop down. I'm going to make a jump key. So this will be jump. And then for the key, I'll just set the space bar. So I'll say space spacebar. That one's quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and add an axis map this time. So the difference between an axis and an action. Axes determine direction, whereas actions determine an action to be taken. So an action could be opening a door, it could be jumping, it could be punching, it could be rolling, whereas axis maps usually deal with flying, moving forward, backward, turning left and right, and that sort of thing. So for our movement keys, I'm going to go ahead and hit axis map, open that up. For the first key, I'm going to call this move forward. And we always name these assuming that the direction we're going is the positive direction. So moving forward is the positive direction. I'm going to go ahead and add my key, so I'll say W. And there it is, W. And you see that scale value is +1. Right next to move forward, I'll hit plus. And I'll add the S key. So S. All right. I'll just go through the keyboard here, and then I'll just go down the list. So S is going to go backwards. We're going to do it as a -1. I'm going to add my next key. This one's going to be move right. So this is for like strafing. I'm going to go and add my key there, or sorry, my other button. So to move right, that's going to be the D key. So let's go to keyboard. D, there you are. And then to move left, that'll be the A key. There's A. To go left, that is a -1. And I'm going to do these as look up, and this is for like our mouse control. So I'm going to say look up mouse, because I like to determine whether or not I'm using a keyboard, mouse, or whichever. And I'm going to change this to mouse, and look up and down is going to be the y-axis. And I'll leave that as a +1. I'll show you how to change this later. And then we have, oh, we don't need an extra key for that. We need the next one, next axis map. This is going to be look right mouse. Mouse X position, or the X axis. And that should be good enough to get us started. So if you want to, if you don't want to have to do this again and again and again, I recommend exporting this file and saving it somewhere that we can just reload it every time. Go ahead and minimize. Let's open up our character blueprint. And then inside of here, so we have our Bubba. We're going to come over to our event graph. And I'm going to go ahead and nuke all the stuff that's in here. I don't need it for now. I'll make a new spot. Just hit the C key. I'm going to call this movement. Just make this a good enough size. Basic player movement requires us to know where our player is and which direction he's currently facing. So to do that, we need to get his rotation. So we're going to right click and get control rotation. There he is. From our control rotation, we have a little blue pin here. This is a rotator. If you kind of hover over, it's a rotator pin. We need to open this up to get to our value. You can do this one of two ways. You can drag this off and do a break rotator, which will give you this. Or you can right click on this thing and do a, go ahead and break that. Or you can right click on this and do split struct pin, and that'll open all the pins up. So either one of those gets to the same action. And I just need my Z value, so I need Z. And for this I do need a make rotator, so make rotator. So our make rotator is going to take whatever value we give it and then convert that to a rotation value. And you can see my Z is plugging into my X. That's not right, it should go Z to Z. So I'm going to go ahead and break that and then do Z to Z. from our return value here, this is also a rotator, but I want to get the direction my character is currently facing. So off of this, I'm going to do forward vector, so get forward vector. And then I also want to get my right vector, so get right vector. Okay. From yaw, I need to add this to the movement input, so add movement input. And I'll get another one of those. Control W duplicates. I'll plug that into world direction there. And now I just need the keys. So whatever key generates my forward movement. So I'm going to drag that off. And I named that move forward. And you can see it's the same name that we named it inside of our project settings. So there's move forward. And then the axis value plugs into green. Drag this one off. This is our move right. And our axis value plugs into green. And I'll hit compile. If I play from here, I should be able to move forward, backward, left, and right. Still no animation, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's go back into our character. Let's set up the camera rotations. So find a spot, create a new comment by pressing C. And we're going to call this camera with mouse. For this, I need my look up and look right mouse buttons. So go ahead and do look up mouse. Make sure you get the axis event, not the function. Look up mouse, and I'll get my look right mouse. Look right mouse. For this, I just need to adjust the controller pitch and yaw positions. So if I drag this out, looking up and down, that's our pitch. So if I just type in pitch, you can see we get an option for input, and it says add controller pitch input. Green to green. And this one, looking left and right, is going to be the yaw position. So YAW brings up the add controller yaw. And then green to green. Hit compile. I should be able to turn my camera left and right, which I can, but I can't look up and down just yet, so I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Go back in. I'm going to go to my spring arm. Now to get the up and down movement, we just have to set either our camera or our spring arm to allow us to use pawn controls. If you have a spring arm, do this in the spring arm. If you're just using a camera, do it on a camera. Don't do it on both, that'll cause some issues. So I'm going to grab my spring arm, come over to my details here. And you can see down here under camera settings, we have use pawn control rotation. I'll hit that. Compile. So here I am, I can move up and down, left and right. Sweet. Okay. Now if you don't like this being inverted on the aim, then you can switch that as well. I'm also going to change one other thing. So as I turn my mouse, you can see my character physically turns. I personally don't like that. I like my character to move separate from the mouse. So I'm going to hit escape, come back into my character. I'm going to go to up at the very top where it says my character name and then self. That's your character component there. I'm going to come on over to the details tab. I'm going to type in ROT for rotation. I'm going to uncheck the controller. Here, I'll just open this up. I'll uncheck controller yaw, compile. So now I should be able to move my camera around my character. But it's a little bit weird when I move, right? That's not natural. It looks like he's kind of sliding on ice. So to fix that, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to come down to my character movement component. Make sure I have rotation up in here, or ROT. And I want to do use controller desired, or sorry, wrong one. Orient rotation to movement. We want this one. Go ahead and compile, and now I should be able to, whenever I move in a direction, he moves that way. Okay. Go back into our character. And now I'm going to do my look up direction. I'm going to set up a inverse. So you could do this in one of two ways. You could open up your project settings, go to input, and you can just change this to a negative, change the Y value on your mouse to a -1. But what if you wanted to change that later? So I'm going to create a function that allows us to do that. So in here, well, I'm not going to make a function, I'm just going to make a branch. Go ahead and move that down. Okay, so a little bit more room here. And we'll do this. I need a variable. I'll call this is aim inverted. And this is going to be a red variable called a boolean, so make sure that, oh, I'm going to hit the X there. Make sure it's a boolean variable. This just checks if true and false, so I'll plug that in here. So if our aim is inverted, it'll run a condition. And the condition is going to be whether or not to run this. So I'm going to go ahead and do whatever key. I'll do a key, let's say 1. I hit compile. That way I can get access to this value. I prefer inverted aim, so I'm going to go ahead and check this to be true. And whenever I press the 1 key, I want to do a flip-flop. So flip-flop. A flip-flop just it's a toggle switch. So whenever I press the key once, it does this one. Whenever I press it again, it does the second one. So what this will do on the first is going to set it to false, because I already have it set to true. And then here I will set it to true. Okay. And then all I'm going to do here is this. Go ahead and expand that out. I'm going to create a value off of here. Go ahead and drag that off from the axis value. I'm going to do a float times float. Float times float. This is going to be a -1. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this controller pitch. And just to make some more room so you can see everything, I'm going to go ahead and move this down. Ah, not you. If I double click on the wire, I can actually bend the wire around. So if the aim is inverted, if that's true, we want it to use this. If it's not true, we want it to do the other. So whichever. So false. Go here. This one. Go ahead and break this one. Just to satisfy my OCD. Break. Break. And then this one is there. Alright, so as a quick double check, we're going to compile. Make sure that we are set up, so it should be from here. If true, we should be using inverted. And if false, we will not use the inverted, so it should work. So if I hit play, if I push forward, I'll go down, and back I go up. And if I hit 1, if I push forward, I go up, and back I go down. So whichever one you prefer. And you can set that up on like a toggle switch somewhere else. Alright, so there's the basic keyboard controls set up for our character. I'm going to go ahead and save it from here. File, save as. So in the next tutorial, we're going to set up the animation for running, walking, and we'll even set up the jump mechanic. Okay? And I'll see you in the next video.